Alyssa. Thank you for being on Easy Talk. Before we talk about modeling or anything like that, because that's really what I want to get into, like the meat and potatoes of this episode. You told me you were just having your 10-year high school reunion.
Yes.
And we're both Afton alum.
Yep.
And I wanted to discuss what that was like for you, because for me, it was interesting.
Yeah, interesting to say the least.
Yeah. Positive or?
You know, it was actually very positive. It was good to see everyone. I wish it was a bigger turnout to see, everybody always talks so much on our class because no one ever wanted to participate, but I feel like it was a really good turnout, and good to talk with people and catch up and see where everybody is.
When you say turnout, like high level, like what, 80 people, 100 people, 50 people?
I'd say like 45,
Oh, no shit.
40-ish, okay. Yeah. And I think we graduated 170 something.
Okay.
I want to say somewhere around there.
About just shy, or maybe around 25%.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was interesting, but it was good to talk to everyone, and especially like where everybody is in their life. A lot of people brought their kids, so that was fun to see. So yeah, it was a good time.
Did it make you feel old when you started seeing people with kids?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I know.
Oh, yes.
When we had our 10-year reunion, it was right before Bruna got pregnant. And, like everyone was talking about their families and their husbands or wives and all these other things. And I was like, holy shit. I don't know when it happened, but we got old, man.
I know.
It snuck up on us.
I'm knocking at 30 in January. I was like,
It's funny because everybody in this room right now is an Afton alum. And I don't really often kind of go back to high school, I guess, just because... I don't know. It's weird. It's such a formative time, but I don't often go back to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm glad it happened. I learned a lot from it, but I don't really visit it often.
It's interesting. For me, I feel like I had such a great high school experience, and I hated my college experience.
Oh, no shit?
Yeah, so...
Where'd you go to university?
Northwest Missouri State University. And I did 4 years there. I studied journalism. I got my bachelor's. But I just didn't have, like, that college experience that everybody talks about. Like, you meet your lifelong friends in college is the main thing I'm speaking about. And I feel like I met my lifelong friends in high school. So, I don't know. I think I had, like, a good high school experience in that sense.
Were you on campus or you're not really commuting to Northwest?
No, I lived on campus my first 2 years, I want to say, in the dorms, and then I moved off campus, and I had my first apartment my junior year, and then I moved back on campus my senior year.
Why do you think you didn't have that kind of, like, experience? Because, like, so I went to UMSL, and I can say that it's, like, the exact same. Like, I basically went to school and then went to work, but it was also more of a commuter school, right? Like, a lot of people that were going to UMSL weren't staying on campus. They were in the St. Louis or metropolitan area. So, like, I agree. I also didn't have much of, like, the... I wasn't much of a partier or anything like that anyway, but I didn't join any frats, didn't really do any clubs or anything. I basically went to school, did my classes, bounced. Yeah. Do you regret that you didn't have that? Would you have wanted that?
I feel like I would have wanted that. For example, I have a sister. She went to SEMO, Southeast Missouri State, and she met all of her lifetime friends in college, and they're like a huge group of people. It's like 30 of them. Like,
oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's huge. I just didn't have that. So I see her experience, and I'm just like, it was just very different.
30 outside of a sorority?
Yeah, outside. She wasn't in. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, she wasn't in a sorority or anything like that, but she just had a great college experience. Mine I really tried. I don't know if it was where I went. It was a very, very small town in Maryville, Missouri. It was like one street, Main Street, and that was it. But I feel like after my freshman year, I was done with the frat parties. I was done with, like, the one bar club that they had there. I was kind of just bored. I was over it. And I don't know. But, yeah, so I just wanted to get done with it. I remember taking summer classes. I was like, I just don't want to do 5 years. I just want to get it done in 4 and be done. I really didn't want to come back after I had my internship in New York City in 2016 of my junior year of college. I remember calling my dad. I'm like, I don't think I want to come back. I think I want to maybe I'll transfer to like NYU or something like that. But it would have put me to being like a sophomore again, or
Not just that, out-of-state tuition
yeah,
is crazy.
that as well.
Just wanted to take a second to pause the action and just tell you guys thank you so much for consuming our content. Easy Talk is a passion project. This podcast is just a bunch of like-minded people coming together to produce some cool stuff and talk to some cool people. One of the things I would very much appreciate is if you could possibly like the video or subscribe to the channel, just because it helps us in the algorithm and ultimately to grow, to get more exposure to everybody, including ourselves, and ultimately just make a better product. Take a second, I'd greatly appreciate it, and on with the show.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I don't think people understand about the college experience is like, you're essentially paying anywhere between 50 and 75% more if you're going to go out of state, which I think is kind of, I get it, because it's like, you know, these are like, they receive a lot of subsidies. These universities receive a lot of subsidies from the state. So it's kind of like their way to make sure that the people in that state are benefiting from that university or that place of higher education. Simultaneously, it's kind of like you're punishing everybody else. Like, why not give someone a discount if they're in state and then just have like everybody else pay just the full tuition price? Why tack on this out-of-state tuition fee? I don't know. But
exactly.
Maybe I'm bringing out like my cheatness here, but
no, not at all. The out-of-state tuition is, I was supposed to go to KU.
Okay,
I got accepted to KU, and that's where I was going to go from the beginning of my senior year on until like maybe a month before we graduated.
Did you still want to study journalism there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but the problem was that they didn't like give us any financial aid.
Oh no.
So, and they wanted me to pay like $30,000 a year out of pocket, and my dad was like, "Oh, absolutely not," you know.
Can I ask a question? I'm not really sure what journalists make, and I'm sure there's like a wide delta, just like in any other industry. But if journalism got out of college, like a journalism degree, got you a job somewhere that made you like, I don't know, 6 figures a year, would you have paid that $30,000? Or was a factor of why you didn't go, even if you didn't have the financial aid, kind of like the degree you were going for, the job opportunities you would have had? Because I often say this, I don't understand how credit hours. First of all, I don't like how education works in America, personally, from middle school on. But higher education just fundamentally doesn't make any sense to me. How, you know, getting an education degree, like to be a teacher, making like $55,000 a year, costs the same as an engineering degree in terms of like credit hours, like value for credit hours. Yet an engineer is going to, you know, go work for Boeing or SpaceX or whatever, making 6 figures right off the bat. It's like, how are you selling this at the same price? Like, what is going on here? Yeah. Imagine you go to a car dealership and the Honda is worth the same as the Mercedes. Like, you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. It's a completely different driving experience. Yet, the Honda cost as much as the Mercedes. So, I don't know. I think if we as a nation want to like really get people to go for what they're passionate about and not just going for what makes money, adjust the price accordingly. But what do I know? I'm just curious because, you know, you say that like the $30,000 is a lot, but I know guys that pay like, you know, like $80,000 to go to like SLU Law, but then, you know, they graduate, pass the bar, and they're crushing it now.
Yeah. Yep. I have a best friend that's doing that exact same thing. But honestly, I feel like I mainly went to college. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. But I just think that it was more so of being able to go, having the opportunity to go. Even my freshman year of college, or even up until like my senior year, I didn't even know what I wanted to do.
Senior year of high school?
College.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you didn't go into college knowing that you wanted to be a journalist?
No, like I just knew I wanted to be on TV, so I just kind of chose whatever.
Gravitated towards that?
I started out, I wanted to be a news anchor.
Okay.
So that's why I chose, my major was mass media, multimedia journalism. So I took a bunch of communication classes, journalism classes, writing, and then just like a lot of film classes. And then I started branching out into like student films and doing things like that, either creating them or starring in them. And it just opened up an entire new world for me too. So I found what I wanted to do while I was in college, I would want to say. But as far as when I first went in, I had no idea. Yeah.
I had the exact opposite experience. Like when I was Well, I also had an older brother who was like already a senior at UMSL, and he was like my very first mentor for sure. And he, you know, if it wasn't for my brother, I don't know if I would have even gone for finance, because I got a wrestling scholarship to go to UCM, and I was going to be a teacher. So like they had top 10 in the nation education program. So I was like, okay, I'll just be a math teacher. I like numbers, I like kids, it'll all work out. And I did have like between the athletic and academic, basically like a full ride. I think it was like $2,000 or $3,000 a year, which for anyone that's going to school, that's nothing, right? But then when my mom was terminally ill, they gave her like a year to live, and I had to like make this tough decision. Like, do I go away? Because it's like a 3.5 hour drive. Like, you're not gonna commute every day. So like, I'm gonna go live out there. That's why I decided to go to UMSL, and that's why I stopped wrestling, because UMSL didn't have a wrestling team, and I even started MMA. So it's hilarious how life works. And because I did that, I went in for finance, and that completely changed the trajectory of my life. So it's funny how things can just kind of sway your judgment one way or another. But once I went to UMSL, me and my brother we like sat down, and my brother just goes, "All right, do you want to do what's fun, or do you want to make money?" And I remember I told him, I was like, making money is fun. So the rest is history.
Yeah.
When you were in school and it kind of struck you to want to be quote unquote like, you know, on TV or as a news broadcaster, how did that trajectory lead you to the world of modeling? Like, why didn't you follow that path, and why am I not talking to you right now about being a news anchor, and why are we going to have this discussion about modeling? Where was that schism?
To be completely transparent, I think it was you have to be a news anchor, from my understanding, you have to work your way up like anything else, which is normal. But I just think the aspect didn't work well with who I was. Like the field reporting, for example, and being out in any condition, you know, winter, tornadoes, whatever. And that just wasn't my vibe. And I feel like
winter storm report, Alyssa. And she's like, it's cold.
Exactly.
Stay inside.
Like, you don't want to be out here. I don't. So I think that's kind of where I took a step back. And I was like, maybe I don't want to pursue this, because I don't want to do that necessarily.
Were you envisioning like the sit down, like Sunday morning talk show kind of like?
Yes.
Gotcha. And then
like with the desk and the papers, and like, this is yeah.
They're telling you go to Joplin, Missouri, talk about the tornadoes, and you're like, peace out, guys.
Exactly. I don't know if you guys did this in the Afton district, but because I only transferred to Afton maybe in 6th grade, but I went to St. Louis Charter School before it, and we took this field trip to, like, I don't remember what it's called, but you're kids, and you're like, you get put into all of these different careers. It's like a career center, and I was actually like one of the news anchors for the community.
No
So
shit.
everybody had their own job. There's like doctors, there's restaurant owners, there's like all these different things in this facility. And
this is what, before middle school?
yeah. Yeah.
Jay at Biztown.
Yeah.
Oh, Jay at Biztown.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was so cool. So cool. So I don't know if they still have that anymore, but I remember doing that, and I was maybe in 4th or 5th grade at the time, and I was like, I want to be the news anchor, and I was like the news anchor of the community. So I feel like it just stemmed from there, and I'm like, when I got to college, I'm like, what do I want to do? And I just kind of reverted back to that. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
that's always kind of like what I wanted to do. I don't know.
It's interesting, too, that like some of the seeds were planted so young.
Yeah.
I don't have a blessing like that, to be honest with you. I was just like, I didn't know until I did know, and then what I did know was kind of like thrust upon me based on like older people that kind of knew me better than I knew myself. So in that sense, I was blessed. But you thought it was going to be something, and it wasn't necessarily what you thought it would be. How did you then say like, okay, you know, I'm not necessarily willing to kind of sludge through the mud, so to speak, to get to the point that I want to get to? How was it that you got into modeling? Because that was the thing when I called you before this episode. I don't even know, when I think of model, I think of beautiful people, like structural, symmetrical, like someone that could push a product, whether that product is like anywhere from makeup to clothing to what have you, or just like a look for a movie theater, right? I don't know. But like, I know a bunch of beautiful people, but I don't know that many models. So it's like, I don't know what the criteria for like looking at someone and saying like this is going to be a model material versus like, okay, this is just like a beautiful person. Like, so you're graduating from school, the work isn't what you thought it would be. How did you end up in this line of work?
I would say modeling has always been with me. Even those days when I was saying back in 5th grade, we did that. I was always talking to my parents about modeling. There are local agencies here in St. Louis that whenever I was younger, my mom took me. They ask for money, and it's not the norm, but here in Missouri, they want you to like take classes. So I did end up going to an agency here, and maybe when I was freshman year of high school, I want to say I started at Barbizon, St. Louis. It was over in Clayton area. And you pretty much just took weekend classes. So they would prompt us to do different things. So one weekend we would have like a whole out photo shoot, and we'd have like different ideas, and then we'd have to like learn our different angles and stuff. So it was more so of a learning process of learning who you are, what side suits you best, or whatever the case may be, or just playing with the camera angles, because the camera, just seeing where they are, you can look certain or different ways, you know what I mean? So, or how to apply makeup. That was like also another course, or just like the fashion show and how to runway walk. So I did go through those classes like maybe very early on in high school, but and then I would go on auditions as well. So I started auditioning maybe in high school as well. So modeling has always been with me. I remember even in college, I have traveled back down to St. Louis just to do different gigs. I did like different hair shows throughout high school. I remember a week before prom, I did a hair show and they dyed my hair completely red, and I'm like freaking out because my prom dress was red. And so I had to hurry up and like dye my hair darker and figure that out. But it's always been, I feel like it's always kind of been on the back burner. But it's always been something I really, really wanted to pursue, but I guess never knew how to get to that point until I got older. Like my parents have always tried to put me in the direction of what I wanted to do, or point me in the direction of these different classes or these different agencies they offer here in St. Louis. But I feel like I learned the most just going to different auditions or going to the different gigs that I did book. And I did book a few, like when I remember here in St. Louis. Like I remember doing a Halloween convention, and they painted my entire body like this porcelain. I was like this porcelain baby doll zombie for this Halloween convention. And I remember going back to high school, and I still had like the paint on me because it was an advertisement for non-water, like a waterproof.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So then how do you wash it off?
Exactly. So I had like, and they're like, oh, when you're in the shower, just do rubbing alcohol. It was all over my body, like in places you can't like see. So I'm like scrubbing with like cotton balls and rags of like rubbing alcohol. So I just remember doing these odd jobs. And speaking of Miss Loris, I remember going into class, and she had like the photo that they, from the photo shoot of the zombie, she had it plastered on like the smart board. And she's like, look what Alyssa did this weekend, guys. And I don't know, I just remember that very vividly. So I feel like it's always been with me, and I've always wanted to pursue it. It's just never been a big thing here in Missouri. So whenever I was younger, I want to say I always dabbled in it, and I always wanted to do it, but it wasn't until maybe I branched out and moved away where I really got into it and saw the world of what it was and learned a lot, I would say.
I have so many questions I want to ask about that whole thing, but I'm going to do it kind of chronologically. So first off, what is the agency? So like when you say like we went to an agency, like, so in fighting, there's two aspects. There's the promoter, and then there's the manager. And a lot of times the manager is just the middleman between the promoter and the fighter. Is that like an agency? Like, what is the agency? Are they trying to get you work? So they're like a manager?
Yeah, in a way. So the agency is pretty much, so the clients come to the agency. So the different brands, if they're looking for a model or to cast a commercial, they'll find the different agencies, or they'll submit it to a casting profile, and the agencies have access to the casting profiles. And so they will send it out to their clients. And it's like, hey, audition for this, submit to this. And that's essentially what they do. And if you were to book it, they'll take a percentage.
Yeah, their management fee, like 10, 15%.
Exactly. Usually 10 for managers. My agent takes 20. My manager takes 10.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's very similar to
and
fighting
then
math.
you get the taxes. That's why, like, especially nowadays, especially all of the celebrities coming out talking about, like, the money and everything, because the manager takes 10%, your agent takes 20, and then Uncle Sam takes
33.
Exactly, and that's 50% of your check right there, so.
Oh, trust me, I know. I would, thank God, if there's one thing you really want in this world, it's a good accountant, because I made more money from the tax benefits, from the discretionary spending I did from fighting than I ever did fighting. Mm-hmm. Every time I went to go do my taxes, there was always a loss, because there was always a loss. So then I would always get like this like 5, 6, 7K swing on my personal, like, because, and we'll talk about this, but I had everything separated. Mm-hmm. So like Ariane is actually the person, and then Easy Fights was the LLC. So I never got paid individually. I got paid to the LLC, and then I gave myself like a salary based off that. And that way, whenever it came down time for tax season, it was all separate. It was all easy. It was like boom, boom, tied yet not the same, right? But it's funny that you say that, because I have to ask the question: if you have a manager that takes 10% or 20%, and then an agency, what is the difference there? Because for us, we have something very similar. So we'll have like gyms, right? And it's customary that whatever gym you're at, usually you pay a gym fee, right? So like, let's say it's $100 a month to train there. But once you go professional, once you start making a little bit of money, there's usually like this conversation had, like, hey, you're getting up, we're going to give you more one-on-one time, we're going to give you more isolated training sessions, we're really trying to like, invest into you now, because we realize you're not a hobbyist, you're actually taking this seriously, but you're not going to pay a gym fee anymore. You might pay a flat rate, and that flat rate might be 15, 20% goes to the gym now. So if I go out, let's say a UFC fighter goes out and makes $100,000, they win, 20% will go to the gym, 10% will go to the manager, who was like basically the middleman between them and the UFC. And then once again, like, they're left with the 70%, but then they have to pay the taxes, they have all the expenses, what have you. So what is the difference between the manager and the agency in your world? Where is that separation?
So currently, I have no communication with my agent, essentially. So my manager is pretty much the go-between.
Okay.
And it may be because she is her mom. But my agent is, I'm with a bigger agency, like my acting agency out in LA. So she's very, very busy, and she's always doing stuff. Honestly, I'm a little terrified of her. She's a little, like, she's,
Straight to the point.
yeah, and very, like, cutthroat. So, but she is, like, a bigger agent, and when I kind of feel good about it, like, whenever people ask who I'm represented by, and I tell them, it makes me feel good, because they're like, oh, how did you even get that? And honestly, she found me.
Is it validating, you think?
Yeah,
Being
in a
part
way.
of this?
In a way, yeah, definitely. Because it is hard to find an agent, and it's very hard to find an agent. I feel like that's the main thing that people are after whenever they go to LA.
Why? Is it because like so many people are trying to act and model, so
I would
like
say
these
about
agents are selective?
90% of the people out in LA are actors.
No shit.
Yeah, they'll be like your waiter, or all of these.
They're doing a day job, but then they're also having a side hustle.
Exactly.
You were talking about, okay, I want to be careful how I ask these questions, and try to stay with a theme here. But obviously, you were talking earlier about how, like, you here in Missouri, getting the agency or getting some sort of like link is difficult. Can you extrapolate on that? Is it because it's the Rust Belt and it's just not? Hollywood is the mecca of film, right? Mm-hmm. Missouri is not anything special in terms of like the mecca of anything, right?
Yeah.
Is it more geographics, or is it population density? Like, why is it that you had to go to LA to get this work? Because you, Alyssa, whether you are physically in St. Louis or in Los Angeles, you haven't changed, right? Like, you're still the same person. You still look the same. You still have the same look. Why is it now suddenly like a game changer that you're there? Because it's proximity? You're just like...
Yeah, I would say I feel like it's a lot of proximity. I haven't really submitted or know what the market is like in Missouri right now, present day, But I would say back then it was just very
When you say back then, forgive me, how many years ago?
high school. So I would say like
10 years ago?
10ish. Yeah, 10ish years, 10, 11. But I think that it mainly was it wasn't a lot. The pool was just very small, like as
Not
far
a lot
as
of work.
jobs.
Okay,
As
not a
far
lot
as
of work.
jobs, like castings and different things, I want to say I would go on one maybe every 4 months.
You can't make a living like that.
You know what I mean? And in LA, I maybe audition maybe 4 times a week,
So it's
maybe
just
more.
volume. And the more volume you have, by proxy, the more success you'll have. Because if you're doing one every 4 months versus four every week,
Exactly.
let's say
It's
you have
that.
50% callback ratio, well, that's way more work.
Yep.
But I would also make the argument that LA is an exceptionally expensive city to live in. So it's like, yes, you have more work, but then the cost of living is more obviously still justified.
Yes. And I feel like the cost of living is huge. So I feel like but with LA, when you're going to these castings and everything, they're usually bigger jobs, like commercial work and everything. Commercial work is actually very good money. And you'll get like that first day fee or whatever. They'll pay you whatever your date was, but then you'll get a buyout if they do use you in the final cut or the final footage. And the buyout is pretty much for the usage of however long, and it's usually a lot. So
When you forgive me, I'm gonna kind of help you out here on this one. When you say buyout, you mean they're wanting to use that film, that audio, so they're gonna buy out the rights to your name and likeness
Exactly.
for a certain amount of time. Sometimes it's in perpetuity. I know that for sure, especially like with film. So like if you're, let's say you're like on a Disney movie, you're selling that shit out forever. Like you're never gonna own a part of that movie, right? But you say that that's actually like you have the first day fee and then there's a possible buyout. So it's entirely possible that like you get quote unquote called to go out there and film this commercial and then they don't even use it.
yeah.
Is
Oh,
that
all
common?
the time.
That's common.
Oh, all the time. I've done so much work that doesn't get used all the time. I've been on, like, for example, whenever I was living in New York, I did a actually acting role. I was a waitress. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the show New York Undercover. It's an older show, but they were rebooting it. Like,
Okay.
you know how they do like older
Remakes.
shows and bring it back with the original cast. So they did that, and I was playing a waitress, and it was the pilot. So when you shoot a pilot, it's like a 50-50 chance.
If it
If it
picks
gets
up.
picked, yeah, if it gets picked up or if it doesn't. This one didn't. And that's kind of been my luck lately is I have been doing like a lot of work, and it's just not, sometimes it just doesn't get picked up.
Is that maddening for you? Like to do this work and to like, I don't want to say be hopeful, but yeah, be hopeful. Like you're like, I hope this works out. Like, and it's, a lot of times when people do work, it's like, it's all kind of on their shoulders, right? Like I make it or break it based on the sweat and tears that I put in. But in this, it could be like, it has nothing to do with you. So you go out there, you crush it with whatever role that you're doing, and then you're crossing your fingers, hoping the pilot or whatever gets like, or the commercial or whatever it is. And then it doesn't. I mean, what's that feel like?
It's it's rough. No, it is, like you said, it's maddening. It really is. And it's exhausting. It's hard to deal with because it's another form of rejection in a way. And all this industry is rejection because like I said, you audition about 4 times, maybe more a week. A lot of that's rejection, obviously, But I would say I look at interviews like Jennifer Aniston, for example, when they had that like friends, like sit down talk with everyone, and everyone was talking how this was their first like main job. Jennifer Aniston made it a point to say, this was like my third or fourth pilot I did, and this is the only one that actually went.
Up.
You know what I mean? So it kind of like made me feel like, okay, good. Like this is the right path. This is how it's supposed to go. And it's just, you have to keep going because like I could get so worn down or so frustrated about it and just like quit. And who knows, tomorrow could have been that big thing that I would have gotten.
Has it ever crossed your mind? Like maybe like there was like a bad week and you're like, dude, wow, what the fuck am I doing?
Oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
all the time. All the time.
What keeps you kind of coming back grounded? The possibility?
The
hope?
possibility and the hope, I would say, and I really feel it. I really feel that it is coming, but it's just one of those things you have to stick out, and it is difficult. It's difficult because, you know, you're not working like a regular job. You don't have a stable income. You don't know how you're really going to make rent next month, but somehow you do it, you know? So it's maddening, it's frustrating, but kind of like I feel like I'm living. Like it's you know what I mean?
You're on
it's
the
like,
edge.
Yeah, it's crazy and it's scary, but I don't know. I feel alive, and I've worked regular jobs. I've worked 9 to 5s. In college, when I moved to New York, I was a receptionist for a big investment family. I've had normal jobs, but I kind of got complacent, and it was almost like I was on autopilot a lot. Like I'd wake up and get ready and then get on the train, go to the office, and then come back. Like it was just, you know, this is kind of like, it scares me. So I don't know, I feel like alive, I guess, in a way, too.
I think it takes a certain kind of person to do that, because if you were to ask like the general person, a lot of them actually love that NPC lifestyle of like wake up at 9, go do the routine, it's safe, it's, you know, it's going to be the same thing Monday through Friday. I get my weekends off, get 2 weeks PTO.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I often say this, there's no wrong way to live life as long as you're not hurting or, you know, taking advantage of other people. Then if you want to be the 9 to 5 guy, then do your thing. Or if you want to be an entrepreneur and like, you know, be the go-getter, also do your thing. Different strokes for different folks. But I would say is, I don't think that is for everyone, your lifestyle. Just like the 9 to 5 isn't for everyone. And the beauty in life is that we have opportunities to chase what we want and pursue like a dream. A lot of what you're saying is very reminiscent to fighting, and not in the sense of like, you know, the activity, but the feeling behind it, because that's how it was for me. It's like, you know, you go do a commercial, let's say, and you get your day fee, and then if it goes, then you're gonna get this extra sum of money. And that extra sum of money could help with like this month's rent, this month's bills, if you want to just like, you know, buy something nice. It's the same thing with fighting. We'd get ready for a fight, and if I lost, I made half my money, and if I won, I made all of my money. And it was kind of like this weird. You said, I think you said it best when you're like, it made you feel alive, dude. It was an adrenaline rush for sure, and I loved it. Maybe I didn't give it enough justice, but like I did like being under the lights. I did like for those 15 minutes, it was all about me and obviously my opponent. But I felt like, and I would like to ask you this, like when you're on a runway or in front of the camera taking a photo shoot or acting and cutting in scenes and these things, do you forget about life, and is it just like, this is what I was here for? This is what I'm meant to do?
I feel like I become a different person, to be honest, because I run into people from like my past that knew me like in school, and they're like, oh my gosh, you do all of these different things, but you're so shy, you're so quiet, like you're, you know,
You don't know me.
I'm such an introvert. And I still am. I'm like a huge introvert. But
No way. With your line of work?
Oh my goodness. I'm so
Really?
shy. I'm so shy. And I've always been. Like even in school, I've never been like a huge, you know, outspoken or anything like that. But I will say when I'm on set and I don't know what it is. But I don't know. It's fun for me, and it's fun for me to like evolve into someone else.
Do you enjoy the role of playing someone else?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. And I feel like I've always enjoyed that. Like, even when I was younger, when I was a kid and, like, watching movies, like, I feel like I kind of maybe vamped my life off of, like, different movies in a weird way. Like, I always wanted to live in New York City. And then I kind of, like, take a step back and I'm like, why? And I'm like, oh, probably because of that movie I watched. And you know what I mean? Like, I loved that movie, Friends with Benefits, and just, like, that fast pace with, you know, Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis. And that's, like, one of my favorite movies. And then, like, just especially with travel, like, I always wanted to go to, like, Ireland, maybe because of P.S. I Love You. Like, it's one of my favorite movies as well. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I just wanted to be those people. Like, I wanted to put myself in those shoes, and I feel like I do that when I'm on set. Like, I become, like, who they want. Like, I always talk to the director. I always talk to the creative director on set and see, like, what they're after. What are you guys looking for? If it's a photo shoot, I'm like, do you want it smiley? Do you want it serious? Is it commercial? You know, is it high fashion? Because that's different, because that's usually like some weird angles, you know what I mean? If it's high fashion. But commercial is usually smiley. You want to look normal, like I'm a normal human being.
I wanted to ask you that, like, because you were talking about like auditions and stuff like that. Is there like any heads up on what they're looking for? Like, let's say you go to audition for, I don't know, a photo shoot, okay? Does your manager call you and say, hey, this time, this place, they're really looking for, I don't know, high class, high fashion, let's say. So then you're going in there with like an idea of what needs to be presented, or is it just kind of like a blind run, like, hey, this time, this place, wear nice shoes?
Yeah.
How does that work?
I would say it's a little bit of both. So for the most part, you do get like a breakdown of casting. So say I have, Alyssa, you have an audition Tuesday, whatever, this time. This is what they're looking for. This is what you're auditioning for. And then they'll sometimes give you even wardrobe, like hints.
Directions.
Yeah.
Don't wear
like
purple.
this is a role for a skater, so maybe you wear a beanie, you know, like they want you. And a lot of the times, especially commercial work, they love to say this: show your personality and your style. So they really just want you to be creative, and it's just like dress out of the box and catch somebody's attention. So that's probably one of my favorites to do. But they do most of the time give you some sort of direction. I will say with acting, it's a little tougher, especially if it's for a bigger series that is actually running. They can't give you too much information because
it might be like
a breach. Yeah. So a lot of the time it'll be very bland. Like especially if it's like a guest star and you only have like 2 lines or something, it'll be like, student walks into the classroom, sits down, doesn't tell you anything about who this student is. Are they a nerd? Are they like a popular kid? Are they a hippie? You know what I mean? They don't tell you anything. They just want to see what you're going to do. So I would say with acting, they don't give you anything, really.
That's got to be frustrating, though.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, tell me what you want.
Yeah.
I can be what you want. Just give me some direction. But that's got to suck.
And I would say after COVID, a lot of the in-person auditions have kind of like been extinct when it comes to acting. Everything starts with the self-tape.
So even after COVID, this is something that's changed. So
yeah,
beforehand, you would go and physically audition.
Exactly. Then COVID happened, and they had everybody taping and sending in their tapes. And then now they're able to see more tapes than they've ever seen before. So essentially more people. So they're sticking with this. Now all we do is like self-tapes. And then once you get like a callback, that'll probably be in person.
Isn't that kind of good for you though as well? Because like you don't have to physically go to a location.
Yeah,
you have to
and
like
be
wait
there.
in line. Like, okay, Alyssa, you're at 11. You can just do your taping, send it out, and go about your day.
Yeah, and a lot of people that, like a lot of my actor friends, they really like the self-tape situation. I personally, like, I have pros and cons about it. Like, of course, you have the ability to tape whenever you like to at any point. You can spend however long you want on the script at hand or whatever. But it comes with a lot of downfalls. One, you can't ask the casting director questions. And that was, like, one of my favorite things to do. Like, because you're kind of building a rapport, you know, when you go into that room. And it's like, so this is what I thought about the character. Is this correct? Or did you want me to go into a different direction? You don't really have that ability with a self-tape. It's just like, okay, this is what I think it is. Let's do it. And it could be a downfall. And I personally think that I audition better in person. Like, usually when I audition in person, I usually book it. I don't want to say all the time because that's not correct. But with acting, it's all self-tapes. All self-tapes to begin with. And I personally don't like it, no. But I do know a lot of people that really enjoy it and prefer it.
You don't think it's ever going to go back? This is the new status quo?
Yeah, I think so. Because they're able to see more and more people. Like, you don't necessarily have to be in LA now, they say. You could, especially Atlanta. A lot of things are happening in Atlanta. And so
when you say a lot of things are happening, do you mean like in terms of work?
Yeah.
Okay, so like
the entertainment industry in general, they're making a big move, it seems, to Atlanta or just other places other than LA, because a lot of things are being taxed really harshly in LA. So a lot of productions in general have been trying to move away from it because of money.
Yeah.
It's just so expensive. So, which is understandable.
What does that do to the industry though? Because I felt like having a homogenized area dedicated to an industry has a lot of cons. But one of the biggest pro would be that you have all of the talent in one centralized location and it's hyper competitive. So the cream will certainly rise to the top, so to speak. If you dilute that by separating these separating the talent pools to different cities, to different locations, I guess a way to remedy that is with this taping option, right? And then submitting that. But how do you feel the industry is shifting now from when you first started to post COVID? Is it in a trajectory you think that is healthy? Is there more work because of the diversification of it? Like, if it was just LA before, now it's LA and Atlanta. Maybe in a couple of years it'll be LA, Atlanta, something else, and then maybe 4 or 5 locations, right? One would argue like, okay, well then maybe there's more work because now there's more locations, so maybe it's actually like better for everybody. But maybe I'm also, completely off, and you're like, Ariane, you can't imagine how much of a bloodbath it is out there.
I would say a little bit of both. It is a bloodbath. Everybody is at each other, like people want work, but I would say there's always going to be a huge market in LA. It's Hollywood. But just, I don't know. I think with the traveling of going from one place to another, they have the opportunity to find locals where in those states that they can film. So there's a thing called a local hire. So when you get a casting, it's like, this is going to be shooting in Pennsylvania. So like if they can get a local hire that's there in Pennsylvania, it'll save them money.
Yeah,
so
and
they'll
travel,
probably do
room,
it. Yeah.
food, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I see
sense.
it all the time, especially with Atlanta. That's why I say like I have like on my resume all of the places I can be a local hire in, and I include Atlanta because my best friend lives there. And I include all of the different places that I can just to kind of give me a leg up of more opportunity for different jobs.
Not only here's my talent, here's my resume, but also here's how easy I am to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
It's competitive, man.
It's very competitive.
Can I ask you a question that I don't know if this is gonna be too on the nose, but what are your relationships like out in LA outside of your agency, your manager? You were talking about how like 90% of LA is like actors, right? And this is your world. So like for me, I have a job, and unless I do a really bad job, I'm not really worried about some guy coming off the street and taking my job, right? But I feel like you guys really have to like compete constantly. What does that do with like your interpersonal relationships? Like, do you have friends out in LA? Like, when you're not working, what is life like? Is it just like hyper competitive all the time and everyone's kind of like moving a chess piece, like who knows what or who knows who has what connections, who can I benefit from? What is life like out there?
I would say a little bit of it is very how do I word this? It is very, what can you do for me a lot of the time. But I will say, like, in the acting world, we do try to help a lot. So, like, if somebody has an audition, we'll ask each other, like, hey, can you be my reader? Like, come over and read the, opposite lines for me. Or even
it's like
just,
help you prep.
Yeah. Or, even while they're doing their self-tape, be the reader on the other side of the camera, like, doing the opposite lines so that they can say their lines. So, and then you can also, like, help that person in a way, too. Like, because obviously you're going to ask them what they think. Okay, should I do another take? Should I do this or that? So I feel like it's very like helpful in a sense. Like I have a community of friends that are actors, and we will give each other tips. We'll like shoot each other different photographers that we've used and that have good deals or good classes or anything like that. So, or do different content things, because a lot of things people are doing on their own and are getting a lot of traction, like making their own content,
Especially nowadays, man.
Yeah, so
I was going to ask you that too, because like, you have an agency, you have a manager and all that stuff, but I feel like we're really hitting this age. I don't know if it gets extended to your line of work. you hear a lot about like independent media, right? And you are seeing so many businesses now kind of sprout out in the absence of the viewership of like MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, and all these other media outlets. You're seeing all these podcasts, all these independent media outlets that, 5-6 years ago could literally not exist. Yet now here this emerging industry in direct competition to the establishment. Is anything like that happening in your world? I mean, I feel like now, and maybe I'm kind of in over my head on this one, but I feel like with AI, how it affects my industry, it's never made it easier to get things done that no one wants to do. But AI is not at a point that it can do the things that people can hyper focus on. So like I work in coding, right? I can have an AI software write a script for like a simple data pull. But if you want, the real reason I have value is because if someone asks me a question, I can use my due diligence to figure out like, hey, this is what you think you want, but let me show you what you really want. Because by these questions, what you really want is this data to make your whatever meeting you're going to have or whatever solution you're looking for. And AI can't really do that. But I feel like in acting, is there like some emerging industry, emerging technology? Are you guys optimistic or pessimistic about your future work, opportunities, all of this? I mean, I feel like right now, would you agree that right now is kind of like a weird time for everybody? Not just, I'm in information systems, you're in acting, completely different worlds. But I don't know what life is going to look like in 5 years. Yeah. I have no idea. Maybe I have a job, maybe I don't. Let's see. I don't know how it is for you guys. Are you guys sweating
Everyone
these?
is terrified.
Really?
Everyone
because
is
of
terrified.
Technology?
Yeah, with AI in particular. That's why I was like kind of laughing when you said, because that's what I was going to bring up was AI. And that was like a big part of the strike that we just had for the actors union.
The writers
SAG.
union? Yeah.
Well, the writers went on strike first, the DGA. Or not the DGA.
Screen Actors Guild, right? SAG?
SAG is actors, yeah.
Screen Actors Guild, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I just want to make sure.
So we just went on strike, and it was a lot because of AI. And same with the writers, because AI can essentially write scripts now and limit those people that are needed in the writer's room.
Yeah.
And it takes away jobs. So people were striking. And same with acting, because now we're afraid about our likeness. So they're doing like these screen printings now.
I know they can steal your name and likeness.
Yeah, and your face and especially with
background. Is steal the right word to describe that?
I would say steal, yeah.
They're stealing your face.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out like the whole payment about it. But it's scary.
Is that legal to take someone's name and likeness? Because we were talking about how you have to sign that right away, right? So if I take that from you using software, unbeknownst to you, I feel like that's illegal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say you'd have to like sign different like documents for it, but there is like, it's scary for the people that are newer in the industry. Like I would say the higher celebrities, they're good. Like, they probably have lawyers and everything that can look over everything for them. But there's like companies out in LA that place background actors in different films or, series, different things. And you're just doing background, so you don't have any lines or anything, so it's literally just your body, your face. So nowadays they're like talking about with implementing AI and making it so that you don't need that physical person there. You can just place like their you know what I mean, using AI or however they do it. And that's really scary because these companies, they're kind of like putting it in their like terms and conditions that nobody really reads, and people are signing it away. So it's
could the argument also be made that with the advent of technology, the barrier to entry is getting smaller and smaller? So like I agree with you that like this 100% will like outsource labor, secondary labor. That's kind of what I was getting at. Like I want to be very careful the verbiage I use here. If what you are doing is easily replaceable, do not be surprised when you are replaced, right? So like if you're like an entry-level person in any field, if I can pick up anybody off the street and teach them how to do it, I'm kind of saying this from my industry. I don't really know your industry that well, I can teach a lot of people how to do the majority of my job, but not the reason why I'm there. Does that make sense? So you could probably AI the shit out of that 80% of my job, but that last 20% is really why I make what I make and why I'm where I'm at. Would you say that that's the same in yours? Like you were kind of alluding to that with like some of the more established people, but like, you know, can you get to, I don't know if you can get to this point now, but you can't just like AI a movie like from start to finish, like a motion, like a
I
2 hour film.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure
At least
what kind
not
of
yet. At
technology
least
they
not
have.
yet.
Yeah, but I haven't seen anything of
But
the sorts.
if it gets to that point though, then what's to stop people from like just using that technology themselves? Like, why don't you do that? And then like, instead of trying to like get a part in a film, make your own film. Because then like that cost that goes into so many different things kind of gets diluted because of this new technology. So in a weird way, is it more competitive now?
I
I don't know.
I feel like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it is because you're kind of you're competing with AI. All of us are. You're competing with your counterparts with talent, and especially with casting. Like when they cast us, or if they're looking for somebody, it's usually the same look. Like if they're looking for a male that's dark hair, dark eyes, it'll be like a room full of that same looking guy.
Jesus.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you're competing with people that kind of resemble you in a room from the get-go. And then you add in AI and everything kind of gets topsy-turvy.
Let me ask the question in a different way though. If that technology gets to the point, because what they're doing is they're trying to like cut off expenses, right? Well, then the argument given to its logical conclusion is if they get to the point where they can make a movie for vastly less expensive than it currently costs, that means everybody else can also make movies and do that. So my question is, do we enter a world where like no one is an actor, no one is a model, instead what they are is like the visionary behind it? Where you're using this tool and your imagination, because ultimately AI is a tool to be used by the person who's kind of like feeding in the data, the information. I want a girl that's 5'5", dark hair. This if you're not initiating that, then this general intelligence doesn't really know where to start, right? Like I want a movie. That can mean so many things, right? I want a movie about a girl. Okay, well now we're dissecting it a little bit. I want a movie about a girl and a guy. They have a family, what have you. It gets to the point then where Alyssa is not quote unquote acting, but she's now I don't even know if you could say directing, but developing a film. Is that healthy?
I don't know if I would say healthy, but because I've always kind of wanted to branch out into that, but I do think that it makes it like enormously like more accessible.
Yeah.
To do.
How much does a film take to like? That's a loaded question, right? Because you can make
probably a lot.
I think I see like when we talk about these like big blockbusters, they're talking about the new Captain America I just saw is like up to 400 million now on a budget, and I think people when you step back, like if you were to tell me that you need $400 million to start a business, I'd be like, what the fuck are you? What are you starting? You know what I mean? You need 400 million before you even make a dollar. You need 400 million. Yeah, but we do that with films all the time. Not to mention, 400 million was just like filming the thing, post production, all these other things. We're not talking about marketing budget and all these other things. I think someone said, or like the metric was like, this movie needs to hit like 800 million in revenue to break even after all is said and done. I'm like, that's such an astronomical investment. Well, what happens if you don't need 800 million to make this movie now? I think that's a good thing, no? Maybe I'm like getting lost in the sauce here.
No, I feel like it's a good thing, and it would make more money for the people involved.
But then you outsource a lot of these jobs because if it doesn't take 800 million, what does that mean? All those secondary actors, well, we don't have to pay them.
All of those different.
All the makeup people, we don't have to pay them. All the lighting people and all the audio people, hey, we got a software for that. So it's like, yes, it's cheaper, but you're taking out everybody from the sauce. It's like, okay, well then at what point do we basically implode on ourselves as an industry? And by the way, it's not just acting, right? It's like everyone is scared to death.
Yeah.
I have people in like corporate finance. I have people in like education. Like everyone's kind of just, I don't want to say the word scared, It's almost like people are just waiting to see what is happening. Like, when will it affect me? How will it affect me? Will it affect me in a positive way, in a negative
And how,
way?
yep.
I think I don't know if scary is the right way to describe it, but interesting might be. It's a very interesting time. We were talking briefly about financials, and you were talking about how, the money and the opportunity is better in LA, but the cost of living is also relatively, compared to the Rust Belt, vastly more expensive. Obviously, the juice is worth the squeeze, or else you wouldn't be out there, right? But you're simultaneously putting on your resumes or like your feelers out, like, by the way, I could be a local actress in Atlanta. My friend has an apartment she can let me stay at. How much of your, like, if you were to do a pie chart of your like job, how much do you spend percentage wise worrying about new business, current business, your finances, networking, getting that next connection, that next role? What is like a day in the life of an actress in LA or a model in LA look like?
So I would say a lot of it comes from like the casting sites. So you have to pay like either monthly or yearly for the casting sites in general. So that's a good chunk of money. It's like $200 a year for one in particular that I use the most.
Casting site. What is that?
So where I self-submit myself. So I have a manager and an agent that will get like the higher stuff that are like HBO series and like the bigger jobs. And then I have like my own casting sites or apps that I use and will self-submit myself to like random photo shoots. Like I did a photo shoot last week for a cat like food dispenser with a bunch of cats on set.
Okay.
So it's just like random jobs, and I will submit myself, and they will pay me directly. I don't have to like break in my manager or any of that
That's because
stuff.
you got that business yourself. So not only are
Exactly.
you doing the business that they get you, but then you're also doing business you got yourself.
Exactly.
How are you finding that business?
Just the different apps and stuff. So like I have to have like the subscriptions for my agent and my manager. So there's Actors Access, there's Casting Networks or LA Casting, and there's Casting Frontier. There's so many, and these are all like monthly subscriptions. It's just like having Hulu or any other.
How much money do you spend in a month on all this?
Some of them being yearly. I would say it probably would equal out to maybe 75-ish.
Dollars. Okay, so nothing, not in the hundreds, but
Yeah.
okay, thank God.
Yeah,
Okay.
but yearly, I would say it gets up there.
Yeah, 75
obviously.
a month.
Yeah.
So roughly, you're talking about like about $1,000 a year, just to like find possible business, maybe crossing my fingers.
Exactly. But I do keep like an Excel document of what I made from each site so that I know if I need to keep it for the following year or if I need to move on, if it's not like
If
I'm
the
not
juice
making.
isn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
When you say how
So-
much you made, you're not talking about the money you.
From that exact app. So, like, for example, I have an app called Backstage. It's $200 a year, but on my Excel document, it's November right now. I've made probably just from Backstage alone is $6K, something around
Gotcha.
there, just from random jobs. This photo shoot here, this photo shoot here, you know what I mean? So, and it's all day rate. So, like, you'll get like $1,000 for a photo shoot day because you're working that 8-hour day, and then you're also giving them those images.
Yeah.
So
Afterwards, the
yeah,
name
so-
and likeness.
Yeah, and I feel like that's worth it. I'll pay the $200, whatever, and then yeah, and that way I can submit myself to whatever jobs come about. And there's also acting jobs on there as well. So I'll do a lot of modeling for the money, but necessarily I want to go more so into acting. So that's like my substance, I would say.
Why is it that modeling, when you say I do modeling for the money, is it because it's just a lot easier to get into? Like, why is modeling seeming to be more profitable for you right now and not acting? Like,
Everybody wants pictures for their brand. So like for for an app like Backstage, it's a lot of like maybe small businesses sometimes, like t-shirt companies sometimes, or a lot of UGC. A lot of UGC pays very well, like
UGC?
user-generated content.
Oh, forgive me. Okay.
So, no, sorry, that was my bad. But, like, say I'm selling, like, a ring. I have a ring company. people will post on Backstage, like, I need real customers to review this product. So they'll send you the product in the mail, and you just make a video on your phone
Hey, this ring is
reviewing
awesome.
it. Yeah, like, oh my gosh, like, it does this or whatever the product is. And they'll
Is that
pay
legal,
you that.
though? Is that legal, though? Like, to say, like, when you say real customers, you didn't buy the thing, right?
Yeah.
So, like, is that not false advertisement?
They won't make it that way because it's kind of like goes into like the
words
act,
you
like,
use.
yeah. So
Hey,
you do have it on, you are wearing it. It's like, do I use it on a daily basis? Did I use it for this video? Yeah. Do I use it every single day?
It's gonna be a
But-
slippery slope, man.
But that's honestly a lot of people like out in LA,
That's how they make their
actors, that's
living.
how they're a lot of UGC. So a lot of just like these reviews of random things.
Product.
Yeah.
When I had Erin on here, she used to be a YouTuber, and now she works for Riot Games, makes like crazy amounts of money. Good for her. But she was telling me that just kind of like telling me some of these sponsor numbers, because I was like, how much money are these guys making for like that, minute long video of like, hey, try this thing out? And dude, it's like 5 figures for some of these people. And I was like, come again for a minute and a half, like, try this product, buy this video game, do the thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah, she says that all this marketing, all the trends in marketing, especially with like we were talking about AI, like the advent of all these technologies, is we're gearing more and more towards authenticity. When television first came out, you could have the cheesy commercials because it was the first time anybody was viewing anything. Hey, Alyssa, I have a cup of chocolate Joe. Try this, great coffee or whatever. Now it's like you want to know that whoever it is that's selling that thing is authentic. Like you actually care about this product. You actually either use it or subscribe to it or what have you. But I feel like based on what you're saying, like if a lot of people are making money off these UGCs, that's like in direct contradiction to what she's telling me, because this is the opposite of authenticity, right? It's like we want authenticity, but yet all these people are now paying for inauthentic reviews and pushing product, which, by the way, has always been the case, right? So like go back 50 years, John Wayne wasn't, he didn't have every pistol in his collection or whatever. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know.
It is a huge contradiction. I do see what you're saying. And it'll say that on the breakdown. It'll be like, we are looking for authentic people to give authentic reviews for this product. But it's like anybody's going to submit.
What if the review's bad? Are you still going to pay me?
But like, people are still going to submit to that because you're going to pay me $300 for a 30-second video.
I was
so
that's basically, I was helping out some UFC fighters getting some sponsors, and I was really, it opened my eyes to that market, because I was basically connecting some fighters with businesses, right, with marketing budget. And I was trying to figure out, what should we charge them, what is this? And they would tell me, what the market rate was. And it's usually between, anywhere between, $150 and $300 for, a post on their wall with them, the collaborators and all that sort of stuff. And I thought to myself, that's not enough to live. Mm-hmm. Think about that for a second there. Because, if it takes authenticity to build a social media ecosystem to where people are following you and they're, interested in what you're doing, and I'm following Alyssa because I want to see what she's doing today, or where she's going and what she's wearing or eating, what have you. It's if your social media starts going down this path of try this product, try that product, try this product, it's okay, well, now I'm just being sold a bunch of shit this whole time for what, $300 a pop? I'm not trying to sound I want to take a step back. $300 is a lot of money to a lot of people. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, how hard is it to get 10,000 followers on Instagram? And then you're selling that for $300 a pop. Mm-hmm. And then that's on your wall. Now every time you post that, you're a little bit more inauthentic, until now it's actually affecting your business. Mm-hmm. So subscribing to business can then affect your business. This is an interesting world. That's why I wanted you on. I was like, dude, I don't fucking get this shit. I don't know how y'all make money. I don't get it.
And also, a lot with the UGC, though, they don't have you post. They just want you to send it in, because a lot of the time they are doing sponsored posts on their self. They're paying to, so for example, I've had a friend contact me and send me a screenshot oh my gosh, is this you? And it was a weird, I did like a UGC video for a neck thing, like, you know, to straighten out the back or something. And so I was just like laying down on it. She's like, this is you? And I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even know that they were posting that, but it's like a sponsored post. So I don't necessarily have to post that on my page. I'm just sending them the video. I'm sending them the footage to use in any way that they want to. So that's mainly what the UGC
and it's labeled sponsored,
yeah.
like so everyone knows it's that this person got paid for this.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that a little bit more. I like that a little bit more because then it's at least a little bit more transparent. My whole thing was like, this is kind of we're getting into an uncanny valley of like what is real, what is not real. Because then it's like if everyone's doing sponsored posts, then sponsored posts cease to be important because then like everyone starts thinking, well, you don't really mean this. You're just getting paid. So like I'm not going to listen to this ad or whatever. Marketing is weird too, man, and that's kind of like. In a weird nutshell, modeling is what? Just marketing.
Yeah.
You're marketing products. But if it's like,
promoting.
If you do too much marketing, then it's inauthentic. And then authenticity is the greatest form of marketing.
It's like,
what a
a cycle.
Yeah.
Like.
So you could actually like fail from success.
Yep.
You were telling me off air that, you know, this walk of life, has bred success for you, but it can be financially stressful at times. Can you walk me through that? Is it because of the inconsistency in generating money, in the work, in the fact that like, you know, if you get a call, you have that day fee, but you might be banking on it actually being used and maybe it doesn't. So now you're off, you know, so many hundreds of dollars or maybe even thousands of dollars. Can you just walk me through this, like the lifestyle of being a model / actor in LA? Like how much are you banking on certain revenues? How much are you limiting certain expenses based on variables? Are finances like always on your mind? Walk me through this.
Finances are always on my mind because it is a ongoing thing. I honestly, if I'm being completely transparent, I live day to day. So, and if I see all of these stories of all of these people that have like pursued like acting and just made their way out to LA, and it always comes down to, I was living in my car, or, you know, I was homeless for a point of time. It's like always the same thing. And I could definitely see how that's possible.
Yeah.
And I would say, if I didn't have the support of my family, I'd probably be doing the same. Like if I didn't have the help of my dad, I'd definitely be in my car. So a lot.
Specifically because LA is so expensive, because the work is so sparing, a combination of all these variables.
A combination, and right now is like our slow season.
The holidays?
The holidays
No
for
way.
acting.
Really?
Yeah. For acting, this is like, it's very quiet right now.
May I ask why? Like, what are the variables that go into that?
Usually around November before Thanksgiving, it just gets
Because of the
dry.
holidays, no one wants to work?
It's the holidays, so everybody just kind of goes on break until January, and then pilot season comes, and then they start shooting all of the pilots.
That's hilarious how various, like, our industries are completely separate, but yet similar. Because, like, I ask anybody that works in corporate America, November, December.
Mm-hmm. Terrible.
No one works. No, I was actually just saying this today. I was like, I don't know the people that use PTO during the holidays. I feel like that's the dumbest time to use PTO because no one's getting any work done because everyone's on PTO.
Yeah.
Like November, December is just dead. And then January hits and it's like full steam ahead, boys. The gates are open. The horses are out. It's interesting that acting is also, or acting modeling is also like that. I wouldn't think of it, but it does make sense because it's like, why would it be isolated to just what I do? Why wouldn't it be like everybody?
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because, you know, when people say, well, why can't you have like a normal job? I don't think people realize that, you know, like the people that are operating the cameras, the sound, all of these people, that this is their 9 to 5. This is what they do Monday through Friday. So they
want to be actors too?
No, like they're behind the camera and that's their job. So all I'm saying is that like you're working during those 9 to 5. So you have to be available for that time is what I mean. So like I had a job like a few months ago at a spa. And it came down to an issue because I got a call back And it was in the morning during a time that, you know, I was supposed to be at work. And I texted her the day before and I'm like, hey, I got a call back. I'm going to be like an hour late into work so that I can go there and then go back. She said, she calls me and she's like, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's not okay, blah, blah, blah. This is my business. And I'm like, hey, I completely understand. But I know that in my interview with you, I told you my career, this is number one in my life. Everything else, I know that you want me to be super, super passionate about being a receptionist at your spa. But at the end of the day, this is my number one. And I told you that in the interview. So if you have to let me go, I completely understand. This is your business. This is your baby. But my career, what I want to do, that's mine.
Well, that's why you're out there.
Yeah.
That's literally why you're out there.
So, you know, like it just comes down to I don't want to disappoint these people at the 9-to-5 jobs. And that's what it is. It always ends up the same way because you'll never know when you get an audition. You'll never know when you get a call back. But I have to go.
Yeah.
I have to go to it. And then it becomes like a ripple effect because if I skip it, then that could lead to my agent or my manager dropping me because
they don't think you're committed.
They don't think I'm committed. And then also it looks bad on their name because they're the ones giving me, you know, talking to the casting directors and saying, this person, I represent this person, she's coming, be there on time. You know what I mean?
You're a reflection of them and they're a reflection of you.
Exactly. So they're going to be
everything.
They're going to be like, oh, you missed that. That's, you know, it's so bad. It looks bad. So it's like, they don't want that.
What would be like a typical year for you? I know that you said that like you need like, you know, if it wasn't for your family, you wouldn't be able to kind of pursue this. I don't want dollar figure, but let's say like we were talking about percentages, like what percentage are you away from self-autonomy? Like how much more work would you have to do, or like what would you need to kind of get to the point where you're like, you know what, Ariane, I got it now. Like it's all on my shoulders. The work speaks for itself. Are you like 20% away? Are you 50% away? What are we looking like here?
Probably 50.
50?
Yeah.
So a substantial amount.
Yeah, I would say so. Because it, like I said, it's kind of like a never-ending cycle. Like, yes, you'll book a shoot, but then it's like, oh, that's my rent. You know what I mean? So, and then it's also a waiting game because these different photo shoots or the films, they operate on a net 30 sometimes. So
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
And a lot of the times it's also on an invoice, like send in an invoice and then they'll get it to you whenever.
Procurement needs to get you, and then you send it to receivables, and then they have to actually send the payment.
So it's never like
you did work on the 1st of November, you might get paid 15th of December.
Exactly.
That's frustrating as hell.
So, and that kind of like...
What about the UGC and stuff like that? Is that like more
that's
like
different.
Venmo, cash?
Yeah, that's like a good Zelle, PayPal, or something like
But
that.
you're talking about more of like the bigger jobs.
Yeah,
like,
the commercials, all of that stuff. That stuff operates on a, like you do the job, you'll get your day rate, and then like the buyout and everything will come later, obviously. But it's all...
Those UGCs sound more and more enticing now. Yeah. It's like, I get my cash, I did my little thing.
And that's how people have been surviving. Like a lot of like my friends out there and stuff, they do a lot more than I do with the UGC, but that's how they survive. A lot of the time, so what I do to make my money, I do a lot of brand ambassador work. So I work solely in the cannabis industry, but I do a lot of like liquor brands as well. So essentially I'll go to different dispensaries around LA, set up a table, hand out t-shirts, and push a particular company's product. And I'll do this for, my shifts go from like 12 to 3, and then I'll go to a next shop from 4 to 7 and have that little gap, you know, to travel. But that has been like my way of making like a stable income. And I'll do that for different companies. Sometimes I'll go to Whole Foods and set up a table and give tastings for like a yogurt that they're trying to push, or a liquor brand or something like that at Total Wine. But all of those brand ambassador positions, if I'm being transparent with my pay, those are all $30 an hour, sometimes more. So my hours will sometimes
which
be
a lot
slow,
of people listening will be like, that's amazing, Alyssa.
But they're short.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 3-4 hours here window. So it's like maybe like $120, $90 to $120. if you have it that day.
Exactly. And each company is different. I really love the company that I work for in the cannabis industry. They take great care of me. As soon as I get into my car in my apartment, I clock in through an app. So I'm getting paid travel time and they receipt my gas. So that works for me because it kind of like...
You can also itemize the mileage on your depreciating asset
And I
being
did,
your car at the end of the year.
All the tax, I save all, but that's mainly what I have been doing to keep up, I guess, with a stable income.
It's just so fucking rough. I resonate with this because I remember when I was an amateur fighter and I wasn't making any money, I was still training 4 hours a day, right? Mm-hmm. So like I would go to school, I would work, and I would train. Like that was basically my life. And a lot of guys at the time were telling me like, Arion, you need to go pro. Arion, you need to go pro when I was like still in school. And I knew me. I was like, no, because if I go pro and I start making a little bit of money, I'm going to start dropping out of school. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do that. I waited until I was done with school and then I had like my professional career. Fun fact, when I was, I want to say like 25, I got called back to go to Afton to talk to the senior class that year. And this is like right when I went pro. I was maybe like 1-0. Like I just had my first fight, right? And it was like me and like a panel of other alums. And we're just talking about success, professional success, all this other stuff. Because when they asked me to come, it was because I had just graduated with a degree in finance with a minor in accounting. And I had just gotten a job at a Fortune 500 company doing the path, right? Well, when I went down there, some of the kids knew who I was because of the fighting. And I had like a very simple question. I was like, how many of you know who I am? And like some people rose their hand. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how many people know me from fighting? The same hands were raised. Like everyone that knew me from fighting. I go, guess what pays the bills? Do you think it's fighting or do you think it's my day job? And like they were like, day job. I was like, yeah, guys. Like I'm so sympathetic to following your passions because I did. But I'm also realistic in like you have to be very careful because how many people have you seen? They go for their passion and then they get stuck in the rut of mediocrity and now they have to work like 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. And because they have to do that, now they don't have time to pursue their passions. I can't tell you how many fighters I know were better than me. Better fighters, stronger, faster, more explosive. It was just that because I went to school, because I had a day job that could really facilitate my lifestyle, I could then afford the time to train. And I actually had a coach tell me, he's like, Arion, you want to know why you're dangerous? We got a gym full of guys that have to be here. You choose to be here. And it really resonated with me. I was like, damn. And I felt so bad for them because it wasn't that they weren't capable or any of these other things. It was just having everything in order. So, I know that it's probably immensely difficult and time consuming and managing and stressful, but I am glad that you're still able to manage that and handle it appropriately so that you can pursue your passions and your dreams. Because I had Dakota Bush on here last week, and the way he explained it was very poignant. He's like, how can I look at my kids and tell them to chase their dreams if I never did? So, when we're old, you'll always look back and say, like, could have done this, could have done that. But I want to minimize regrets. Yeah, you know what I mean?
That was my main thing as well. I just want to pursue everything that I want to pursue so that when I'm 80, 90 years old, I'm not looking back like, oh my God.
and maybe you look back and you go, I tried and bam, it fucking worked.
Exactly.
To everybody that doubted me. You know what I mean? Because I retired from fighting, so some people tell me like, oh, you still got it, you're only 31, like that's your athletic prime. I go, guys, for me, it was always about being the best in the world. And if the second I realized I wasn't going to be the best in the world, I'm not into this anymore. I'm going to do everything else. But it was also really easy because like I did pour my heart and soul into it. I tried, gave it all I had, wasn't good enough. It was okay. It was okay. I gave it I did more than most will ever try. So I was very proud of myself. I still am. And I think when all is said and done, I think you'll resonate with yourself in the same manner, especially considering how much you're having to sacrifice to do that. And it's admirable. I also think that it's admirable that you're not just willing to do work, but you're also willing to create a business of your own. Because that's also like a completely, you want to talk about stress, open a business, start a business. you're doing that now. So like you're handling a lot of stresses, girl. You have modeling and acting, but then you also started your own business. What made you want to do that? Why? And what is it, if you don't mind me asking?
So my business is called Me by Mechelle, is my middle name, but I essentially started it. It's a hair care business. We have different hair accessories. We sell scrunchies, hats, robes, all satin. So because satin locks in the natural moisture of your hair, so no friction. It helps with breakage and everything. And essentially, I started it because I guess growing up, I was always self-conscious about my curly hair. And I wanted to, I guess, promote positivity with curly hair or just loving your natural hair for young people, like growing up. So with my experience going to Afton, Afton is a predominantly white school. I came from a predominantly black school. When I first came to Afton in 6th grade, I really tried to fit in with everybody and straighten my hair all the time, and especially in middle school.
Or to look like everybody else?
Exactly. And just completely damaged my hair so bad. So I look at like my nieces and nephews like to this day, and I'm like, I just don't want you guys to have to like go through that. Like, you should feel comfortable like what you were born with and how you look, and embrace it. It's beautiful. And so I wanted to create a company that kind of emphasized that. So that brought in Me by Mechelle, and it wasn't until high school where like I started really embracing my naturally curly hair and wearing it pretty much every day. I barely ever straighten my hair now, unless like someone tells me for job purposes or anything like that. But
Can I ask a question? Because you're talking to a guy who, spoiler warning here. Yeah. So why is straightening your hair damaging your hair?
it's heat, so you're just essentially just like frying it off.
Oh, cooking your hair?
Yeah. So
And,
is what I
women
did.
do this.
Yeah. To this day, yeah. I mean, they have like better straighteners nowadays, but I feel like people still use the OG like straighteners. I still have my Chi at home, but
It wasn't something that I ever noticed until my wife moved in.
yeah.
And then I realized how much effort women put into their physical appearance. I don't. Can I ask you a question? When you go out, okay, but do you have a significant other?
Currently complicated.
Gotcha. Okay, forgive me, but
You're fine.
I'll ask on a more higher level. So, like, let's say you're going out and you want to look good. Why do you want to look good? Like, let me ask this in a better way. Are you wanting to look good for yourself or to impress other people? Like, where is that for you?
A little bit of both for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I personally love dressing up. I love looking my best because I feel my best when I do. And I feel like I can, I don't know, like, I just feel like more outgoing in a way. I don't know if that's like,
That makes sense.
yeah, like, I don't know. I feel a little bit more outgoing, more comfortable speaking or having the spotlight on me, because obviously when you speak, you're gaining the attention of whoever is in the room. So I do it for that aspect, and I feel good about it. And I go to a lot of networking events in LA, different things like that. So I like to look the best in those rooms as well, because it kind of is a conversation starter. And that's why I really like it. And so, especially with networking events, because I like to go to those by myself, because it just entices people to start conversations with you more versus when you're with someone else, because then you're just talking to that person, and then people won't feel comfortable to come to you and start you. It's hard to meet people, and that's the whole point, is to network, So I like to go by myself, and I like to look my best, because it is like, or wear something like different or funky, is like, because it is a conversation starter. Like, oh, I like your shoes. Oh, I like whatever.
Breaks the ice.
Yeah. So in that aspect, I think it's always great to just try to look your best.
How much of that is also to I don't want to say the word impress, but to get the attention of of a possible suitor. So like if you were to do like a pie chart of like I'm gonna look good tonight, 50% is for me, 50% is for some guy tonight possibly. What does that pie chart look like for you?
Ooh, mine's probably really high. I would say like a good 80,
Is
20
for yourself?
is for myself. Yeah.
Well, because you're also representing yourself and your brand.
Yeah, I don't necessarily say, "Oh, I'm going to put this on because I'm going to like gain a lot of attention if I wear this top or something, you know?" Maybe like I'll say, "Ooh, this looks really good." Like, "Ooh, I look really good in this," or like, "Oh, my butt looks great in this." I don't know if that's TMI, but like, you know, like
I do the same thing with my jeans.
you know what I mean? Like sometimes like naturally you're in the mirror, you're like, but I guess I don't say that to, oh, I'm going to find a man tonight because I have on these pants. I don't necessarily care. I wasn't in the best relationship in college, so it kind of like pushed me or turned me off from that aspect. So I've been really like focusing on myself and my career for the most part. But yeah.
Do you want to talk about that or no?
No, I mean it's fine.
Okay.
I would say like it kind of is, it's a part of my story. Like whenever I was in college, I was in a terrible relationship. This was like my well, I mean, spanning from high school up until college. So, a very long relationship, on and off, ins and outs. And my junior year in particular, something just kind of altered and snapped, and the person became honestly a completely different person, and it was very, very bad in multiple ways. So, and that's what honestly prompted me to, I remember just like applying to so many different internships my junior year, going, that was 2016, that summer. And that's when I landed that internship in New York City. And that's when oh my gosh, and I just booked it and I left.
Were you looking for a catalyst to end the relationship or just to get away? Like,
Yeah,
like, hey,
I
sorry.
needed to get out of St. Louis because I felt like if I stayed in St. Louis that I was always going to be pulled back into that situation.
With that same individual.
Yes.
That's toxic as fuck.
Yeah, it was very, very bad. So, I got the internship in New York, which wasn't the best internship, which I didn't care. I was just like, please just get me away. And there's things that happened with my apartment this was when I moved off of campus and I had my own apartment. I'm just going to be transparent. My landlord evicted me due to the fights that we were having, not because of financials.
You and your significant other.
Like broken front door hinges. Jesus. The landlord had to come and like repair it, like, you know, so I think he just got fed up and he was like, I just really hope that you find yourself and get the help that you need or whatever, but can't do it anymore. So I was like, it's fine. So, I mean, I wasn't like, it's fine, but the next week I got the call that I got the internship. So then I was like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I booked it out and went to New York.
You don't still talk to that person now, do you?
That was the last time.
Yeah.
That was honestly the end.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't know that, but I think relationships, this is the way someone told me when I got out of a toxic relationship. They're like, you will look back on this person without hate, but a certain sense of gratitude because you needed them to become the person you are. Mm-hmm. And you grow from everybody. Good, bad. I've had good exes, bad exes, but when I look back at it now objectively, I'm kind of thankful that I had to go through that because it taught me a lot about myself. That being said, it also is from the paradigm of a man where like I've never in my life been like physically like I've never been afraid for my physical health. Does that make sense? Like if I was ever with like someone that was quote unquote toxic, it was usually strictly emotional. I think that paradigm for women is like always present. That's why I'm a little bit more I don't want to say the word sensitive, but empathetic when women talk about this stuff because it's like, dude, not only do you have to deal with the same shit I have to deal with, but then you also have that underlying like this guy could really hurt me if he wanted to, and we're alone and everyone's gonna think I fell down some steps.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but I'm glad that you got out the other side better for it.
Yeah.
Um,
And, like, it's all those experiences that kind of shape the person that you are and lead you to that new chapter or step in your life. And that's essentially, like, what it did for me. So I'm not saying and by any means that, like, oh, I'm so grateful that happened. No.
no.
But I in a way, I guess I don't know how to word it, but, it happened and I learned from it. And I'm glad that I was able to move on and find something else. Like, I went and did this internship in New York, and that was honestly the best time of my life. I met like I said, I didn't have like those close relationships in college. I met those people that summer in
Oh,
that internship. Like, those are like my lifelong friends.
oh
Like, I
shit.
still talk to them to this day, and that was 2016. Like, one of my best friends came from that internship. Two of my best friends, three actually, sorry. But so it's like I'm so glad that I went and I did that internship, and which honestly is why I didn't want to come back to Missouri and finish off my senior year. My dad was like, no, you're finishing off your last year of college. So I came back and just graduated, and then I moved back out in 2017 that November. Yeah. But I was just like, this is where I wanted to be. New York has like this presence about itself where you can be who you are. You don't have to evolve into.
Where'd you stay, in the city, downtown?
I stayed when that internship year. I was in Brooklyn,
Oh,
Bushwick.
got you.
Yeah.
I have family in Staten Island, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
I know it's not one of the burgs. It's like one of those, like, not burg but burg. And every time we're in town for work or whatever, I like to go down and visit them. And I'm reminded that like St. Louis is a city, but it's not a city. Like, go
Yeah.
to Chicago, go to like Atlanta, that's a city. And then on top of that, go to New York. That's a concrete jungle, man. That place
Yeah.
is. I would strongly recommend everyone travels in their life just to get some like different exposure, see different things and experience different things. But I think there's like a list of places I would tell people to go. And the places that I've been to that kind of resonate with me is the Parthenon in Athens, Greece, and definitely New York City. Not necessarily Times Square, but like walk down some of the boroughs in the daytime. Uh, just embrace it. It's really crazy what man can build. And every time I'm in New York, I'm reminded how small I am. This place is so big, and there's so many people, and everyone has dreams and aspirations just like me, and everyone's just trying to get by and
Yeah.
make whatever it is that they're working on happen. And it's kind of inspiring because it's like I like competition or being engrossed in it,
Mhm.
and I like feeling like everybody else in the room is like chasing something because it's like, oh yeah, fuck yeah. It reminds me that like I can't rest. I can't. And there is something about being in like New York, especially when I was working, when we would travel there for work more often than we do now. It was just a constant reminder that like I was blessed to have the opportunities that I have because there were people there that would jump on the things that I was bitching about. You know what I mean? So
It's
this,
funny you say that though, because like I feel the exact same way about New York. Like, I just enjoyed waking up in the morning, getting on the subway, and 7 a.m. somebody playing, doing, and that was just so motivational to me and inspirational. So like, and it would kind of push me in a way. It's like, what are you doing? Do your dream. Like, look at these people. It's 7 a.m. and they're like singing to these people that half of them have their headphones in, but they're still giving it their all.
yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought that was so cool. But yeah.
I think there's pros and cons to everything. Like I can see the pros of like, the rural lifestyle where you're out on your own land and you're really engrossed in nature and like kind of like that ancient human lifestyle. But I can also see the benefits of like being in that concrete jungle, in that hustle and bustle, in that extremely busy and loud environment. It goes back to what we were saying earlier, where there's just different strokes for different folks, and
Hmm.
I'm glad that we live in a world where we have options. In the process of this conversation, uh, you've been discussing, a lot of skill sets and a lot of passions, right? So like you have a passion for acting, you have a passion for modeling, the skill set of time management to handle, the jobs that you need in order to pay the bills while simultaneously having the free time in order to pursue your passions. And then on top of that, you throw on this entrepreneurial endeavor. How are you managing running a business working, trying to, get any job you can. This seems extremely stressful.
Yeah.
Is that a safe assumption?
Very difficult. But I would say the best thing that works for me is my planner. My planner is like my best friend. I like literally color coordinate everything. I put everything that's due in a certain color. I put all auditions in a certain color, different content posts in a certain color. So the timing and everything. Because I know that Instagram has like their whole scheduled post, but I hate using that feature because they leave out information. I don't know if that works, if that's the case for everybody, but I don't know. It's strange. But no, I think organization is the best way that I've learned to just cope with everything that's going on.
Well, you
And
have to be. There's
yeah,
no way you could just like stumble through this lifestyle, or else you're gonna, have bookings or auditions during work time, and
yeah,
then
overlapping.
maybe you have to spend some time on a product for your business, and that's getting into the time of, I don't know, leisure or also your passions. I resonate with that wholeheartedly. I do the exact same thing on Outlook. I even set aside time specifically for a family. I know that sounds kind of shitty, but like I put meetings for like, okay, hang out with daughter and wife. Because if I don't, then something else will come in at that time frame and then take that time. So it's kind of like I'll do my calendar like a month at a time, you know what I mean? And then like the very first things I do is like, okay, what's the time for date night with my wife, family time with my daughter, both singular and with my wife, because I wanna have a relationship with my daughter outside of my wife and then with my wife. Like I'm father and we are your parents. But I also want to have that like an hour, let's say, just me and my daughter. Let's go. I'll take her to dinner or something, and she's only 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whatever.
and that's very smart, honestly.
But if I don't,
Yeah.
then I'll be like, I'll forget. It won't be as important to me because I have other things going on. So when you say that, like you have a planner, fuck yeah, I get it. I don't know how I manage my life without my Outlook calendar and my assistant. It would be impossible. It would be impossible.
Exactly, and it's something about actually writing it for me.
You're a visual person?
I have to see it. I have to see all the colors, and then it kind of like I like to look at it as a whole, and I'm like, okay, so I have this many auditions this month, and it kind of goes into a tally or a ratio of how my progress is in a way.
When you come back into town to visit the family, how does that feel when you're back here in St. Louis? Is it like a positive feeling? Is it a negative feeling? What is it like when you get off at Lambert?
It's always a positive feeling for me. I love to see my family. I love to see the kids. My sister's kids, she had 4. And just to be in their life, I really enjoy. I would say the negatives come in when you notice how much time you're, I guess, losing with them. So I would say that's probably
Meaning?
the hardest thing.
Like, what do you mean? Like, when you come into town, you see how much they're changing and growing?
Yeah, yeah. Or like, when with younger kids in general, like they clam up if they don't know you super, super well. Like
They get shy.
exactly. And I know.
Does that hurt you?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I'm anti.
Yeah. Because I had such a close relationship with my oldest niece when she was like growing up, because my sister had her when I was a freshman in high school and she was a senior. So her, like, I remember my sister calling me when she was a newborn and we both had school in the morning, like, all right, it's your turn, come and get her. Like I had that like relationship with her. Like I would sit up there with her bawling her eyes out crying and me not knowing, like, I fed you, I changed your diaper, I did this, that, I don't know why you're crying, and me crying myself, like I've been in those situations. So like I have this bond with my oldest niece that I don't have with the younger 3 that I really, really want. So I feel like that's maybe the one negative about
The
it,
price that
like
you pay.
yeah.
I often think about, so I have family members in, Florida and New York and throughout the states, but we're older. It's only now hitting me because now all of us are starting to have kids. And one of the things that my parents did a very good job of doing is, even though we had family members all throughout, we would always make time once a year. Like we would go to Florida, or Florida would come up to us, or we would go to Minnesota, whatever. And it was a way for all the cousins to kind of, I'm close with my cousins in Minnesota and in Florida and New York simply because our families made an effort to bring us together. You know what I mean? Now it's even easier with social media, but I'm talking about like, 99, 2000, 2001,
yeah.
right? So like if you didn't see people or you didn't talk on the phone, you never talked or you never hung out. Or you had no idea what was going on. And it's something that I actively try to do with my daughter. So like when my daughter was just after her first birthday last year for Christmas and everything, I called all the family members and we all went down to Florida because I wanted my daughter to meet everybody. And it was like, in my head, it was like this great idea. You know what I mean? And then when it actually came like to physically doing it, I realized it was like the best idea. Because not only is she surrounded by, I never felt this feeling before, as a man, there's like a certain amount of love I've felt, right, throughout my life. Nothing as strong as my mother. Okay, like my mother, I knew she loved me, right? But the love that I saw from everyone to my daughter was this like super powerful and euphoric feeling, and like I was like, oh my god, like I felt so like grateful, like thank you guys,
Yeah,
like
that's beautiful.
And the reason I bring that up is it might be once a year that you come into town, but I think that's still so important, and I think that like when years happen and you're 40 and the kids are like in their teens now or maybe like high teens, low 20s, whatever, they'll remember it too. I think. Maybe I'm fucking wrong. I don't know. But I think effort is what matters, right? It's like how many times have you heard of someone's like the wealthy person like gives you like a big present, but then you never see them. You're like, okay, whatever, dude.
Yeah, like what's that? Yeah.
Versus the family member who actually gives the time or the effort or is like actually into whatever it is that you're doing. Those are the people that you're going to resonate with when you get older. So I think it's beautiful. I love that is a price that you pay because I think that's in a weird way that's a luxury price, right? Like you have nieces, you have nephews, you have this family. So God bless. But that does bring up the point of like, and I know that you have documents that you've signed, but I do want to talk about some of the successes that are in your way. One of the reasons why you're not in St. Louis is because you're actively now, booked for your like. I'm not going to do it justice saying it. So like you got booked for an acting gig. Is that how I know it?
Yes. So my newest project, it will begin starting training in January. It is a martial arts project. So it's essentially going to be about superheroes. I'm going to be playing the villain. So it's going to be interesting. And we start like Taekwondo training is what it's going to be in January. And then I'm sure that we're going to start filming sometime summer of 2025 is what it's estimated to be as of right now.
Have you ever done any martial arts in your life?
I have.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
I'm an orange belt currently.
Karate?
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo, forgive me.
Mm-hmm. So previously, maybe a year or so ago, I was about to do another project that incorporated martial arts. So I actually enrolled in classes to get started. The director was friends with the owner of the place, so I went there. But then a lot of things fell through, which is like another like thing about LA. So I don't know if I should talk about this or not, but like this guy, he's like in their starting position at Warner Brothers. So they have like these entry programs where you can learn how to be a director or whatever and then work your way up. So he makes different films. I was in one of his short films when I first moved to LA. It was like a 48-hour film fest. And he was creating a martial arts film. So he wanted me to be like the lead. He put me in these classes and everything. And I want to say about 7 months later, I'm like, by this time, I'm like an orange belt. I'm going once a week, sometimes twice a week to these classes. And then I get a text from him around like 2 a.m. And I'm like, of course.
There's never a good text at 2 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. So I read it, and it's like a huge paragraph, pretty much just confessing their love for me.
Oh, no.
And saying, like,
that is, I thought he was going to tell you that you weren't the lead anymore.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, Jesus.
Nothing like that. But then it spirals into, so, like, he says, like, all of these things, and then, I answer him back in the morning because I was asleep at that time, but I answer him back, and I'm just like, I don't view you that way. I just, And then after that message, he just blocks me on everything and blocks me on social media, blocks my number, everything. And then I'm like, okay, I guess I'm out of the film. And that was just so gut wrenching because of all the time I spent. Like, I met with so many stunt coordinators, so many, like, just different meetings that we did to go over like different aspects of the character, and like just so much time wasted. And so which is why I wanted to say this, because LA is a weird place where you have to watch out for that. And when you think something is like legit and will help you succeed, or it seems like somebody is being authentic or a friend, it's like sometimes not genuine in that light. So I kind of try to like be super, super professional, especially when it comes to the opposite sex.
How difficult can that be, though?
It's extremely difficult because then you bring in you want to meet for coffee or lunch to talk about the script, which is very normal. It's very normal. But then I feel like with some people, they kind of get things like blurred in a weird way.
Do you think it's also a power dynamic? Because this person, and this is like something, it's kind of engraved in the social fabric, but like this person is picking people, and it's a highly competitive area where 90% of the people there are actors, and this guy might be a director, and he gets to pick who's going into what role. So he has this like power trip. This guy could be a starter at WB, but he thinks that he can do whatever he wants, and kind of, work that into whatever personal relationship he wants to stem from a professional relationship. And you're a beautiful woman, so like I'm sure there have been how do I want to word this, people with less than reputable expectations for what they would want to do. Are you getting better at seeing that earlier now? Is it just trial and error? And how frustrating is that, man, when you think that you got it because of your merit, and it's just realize like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult, and it's hard. It's hard sometimes to even gauge if that's what it is, because sometimes it's not. Sometimes, like, I've been in rooms where they're like, "Oh, you're beautiful," blah blah blah, but it's never been about that. Sometimes it's about like, yeah, but for this role, like, I want to make you like a psychotic, like, you know what I mean? And that's what I want.
Beauty becomes a detriment, not an asset. Oh no.
Like honestly, that's like one of like my dream roles. Like, I want to be portrayed as like I want to get these hard, like, gut-wrenching roles, like the Euphorias, where she's like a super crazed addict, or like the schizophrenic person in a straitjacket, or you know what I mean? Like, I want these like weird roles that are not like this beauty queen type of role.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier. You want to escape yourself. You want to play something different.
Yeah.
And you're the pretty girl. So like let me be not the pretty girl.
I don't want to do that. Like so
it makes sense.
I feel like with that situation, I am more alert to it.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. When I think of like, Hollywood, I think much more liberal than conservative, obviously, like the populace. And the liberals, the liberal community tends to be very, especially now more than ever, defensive of like MeToo movements and like allegations and things like that. How are there no repercussions for things like this? I'll give you an example. Let's say I hire a girl. Now that the power dynamic there is like I'm this level and she's beneath me. If I try to make a pass at her that's like that is unwarranted, or like she doesn't feel comfortable or whatever, I mean, she's immediately going to HR. There will be immediate ramifications, or I could lose my job. There's so many things that could happen. So like in a lot of ways, I hate to say it this way, but the thing that prevents men acting like animals is this, outcome that could happen that would ruin their life. And I hate that for some men, that needs to be the thing, but it is. Not for all men. That's not what I'm saying. But like in my industry, we have human resources there for a reason. Do you guys not have human resources? There's like nowhere you guys can go to like, hey, I thought I had this thing booked. Homie's trying to make a pass out of me. I don't want it. I'm blocked on everything. Is there anything you can do?
There is when you get that big job. So this wouldn't be like, this is somebody in an entry level that is trying to create something on their self, like from their self. They created the story, they created, like, they put all of the people that are involved, they were the person to bring everybody in. So it was pretty much essentially all his thing. So he could do whatever he wanted.
He could do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Which also fulfills even more the power fantasy. He's in complete control. There are no ramifications.
Exactly.
Man, I've never had to worry about that. I'm sorry. I've never had to be like, is my boss trying to bang me?
Right.
Sounds like an awful thing to think about.
It's terrible.
Oh,
it honestly is terrible. But
it's actually something I think about first form.
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Because I've had like Jackie and Evan and all these other people and Jose, and I think to myself, like, maybe this is an incorrect assumption, but like when you put enough beautiful people around each other, young, beautiful people, and let me stress there's like a lot of the women like the men like the women. So it's like consensual, you know what I mean? You're bound to get interactions, right? And if you get to a certain like age, where do you meet people other than work? Yeah. You know, like you're not really...
Because what else are you...
Yeah, you're not going to school. So if you're not working, I don't know about you, if I'm not working, I'm at home with my wife and kid, right? So like the only time I ever meet people now is like usually when I'm at work. I don't know. Because like that could be flipped on its head. Like what if this guy was like, what if you were into him? Then it's like, you know, the creep turns into like, we could be having a discussion about how you met your husband. Oh, we met on this thing. And like, what do they say? The difference between a genius and an idiot is success, right? So this guy at this point is an idiot, but could have easily been a genius.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
And it's so weird to think about because you're so right. Like if he was like this,
if I
had a crush on him or something, like a secret crush, like, but I didn't want to cross that line, but then he initiated, it could have been a different situation. But yeah, it wasn't that.
it's a weird line to walk because I mean, you know, I had a professor when I was in university explain it to me perfectly. He's like, Ariane, we're not homosexual, we're not heterosexual, we are just sexual creatures, humans. If you leave men to their own devices, men will fuck other men. Look at any prison, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like before you start like talking about like a spectrum, it's like leave a man to their own devices, watch what happens. Yeah. And never underestimate the depravity of a lonely man. That's a whole other topic. But you know, when you have this world of like beauty and glamour and allure and, you know, sophistication, and, you know, a lot of times it's accompanied with status and power and money. I wonder how many people, I mean, you hear about it all the time, like the Harvey Weinsteins and everything like that. Like how many people get to that position and then are just monsters? Yeah.
There's so many common stories coming out, like present day.
I don't think anything is in isolation. Whew. I think birds of a feather flock together. Yeah. And I think if one person is doing it, it's very rarely in isolation. Like what, everyone else is, you know, like they're going to church on Sunday and then there's one monster. Like that's not how it works. Yeah. I don't know. That might be like the one dark thing about that line of work is how many allegations and like just the creepy nature of people. And by the way, it's not isolated to men. I mean, you could easily have a woman do the same thing to men, to other women. You could have a man do it to a man. I think Terry Crews was talking about like how it was like his first audition, some guy grabbed his junk or something like that. That's Terry Crews, like, you know, like this jacked black guy. Like you wouldn't think that he would be in a position where he was like physically felt inferior to another man.
100%. I've had male actor friends that have told me some weird stories as well. So I get it. It goes both ways for sure. There's some weird women out there. There's some, you know. Yeah,
it's not isolated.
Yeah.
Well, take the good with the bad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you hoping to get out of this film, though? I mean, have you acted before in a movie sense? Like, I know you've done commercials and things like that, which I guess I would call that more acting than modeling. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You're acting like you like a product. Yeah. This is more of like, you know, a motion picture film. Nervous?
I'm excited. I'm very excited, and I'm really excited to dive into training is what I'm really like more so looking forward to. I really want a black belt, and they said that like during training that we can actually like work our way up, so I can start back like with my orange belt and continue the
Yeah, I mean, martial arts, you don't lose it. You only gain from it or build on top of it.
Which is so cool. Like, so I'm excited to get back into that. And even after the film, I kind of want to get back into classes as well. So it's just, I guess what I'm hoping to get out of it is mainly just like the experience for sure. It seems like it's going to be probably one of the bigger productions that I've ever done. So I'm excited about that. I feel like new experiences and yeah, just the training. This is going to be like my first to finally do like a film where I can actually do it and do the stunt training and everything. So I'm excited about that too.
That was kind of shocking when you told me you did all this work prior and that it just kind of fell through. Because I feel like, is all that prep time and experience and cost kind of put on your shoulders? Like they say, like, hey, this is, not only do you have to do training to be an actress or to model, but then on top of that, it's like, well, this role requires you to have this skill set. Go learn it. And that's just like what on put on your shoulders, and like that's your task now.
So for that in particular, he paid for the duration of
Training.
yeah, but then whenever that fell through, I continued classes on my own.
Oh.
With the actual place itself.
Just because you liked it? Mm-hmm. Nice, good for you.
Yeah, until I couldn't. So, you know, they're just, you know, I just needed to cut something.
No, I get it.
Honest to God truth, yeah. So, but I eventually want to get back into it. I want to take it as far as I can because I want to be like a stunting actress. Like, in a sense, I want to do my own stunts. So, I don't know. I feel like that would be cool.
Speaking as a fighter, it's overrated. Let someone else take the punch.
Yeah.
No,
I feel like it'd be pretty awesome to at least learn how it's done and everything. I don't know. It seems cool.
What's the time frame of this, like structurally speaking? Like, how, like do they, when you start a business, like there's like a P&L, a pro forma statement, like what you think cash flow is going to be? How is it like with a film? Do you guys know how long you're going to shoot? Do you already know where it's going to be? Like how I know you can't talk about a lot, but I want like high level, like is all of this already stipulated and you already know all of this?
Yes. Okay. So they pretty much, as of last week, sent me the breakdown of everything. We're going to begin training around January 18th-ish. And then it's going to be maybe like once or twice a week. We should start filming around April-ish. And then up until like end of summer.
So like roughly 4 or 5 months?
Yeah. And then probably the project will come out following year.
But I'm pumped now.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I didn't think you could make a movie out of that. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of like Game of Thrones or whatever, like those like big TV shows where they're going to like New Zealand and Australia.
With the huge effects and all the dragons. And
That's also like, you have like, what, 16 different teams scouring the globe. I remember I watched this documentary on like how they did it, and I was blown away. Game of Thrones to me and how they made it happen was craziness. But then I also watched a documentary on how they're making the new Disney films, like not Disney films, forgive me, the new Disney shows like The Mandalorian and everything. And it's like a set. They have like this like 270-degree high resolution.
Is it a screen?
Screen, but it's also like all the ambience too. So like the lighting, the wind.
The XR stage.
Yes.
So what's funny about the XR stage is I actually did a project in the very beginning of summer, this past summer, on an XR stage. And this was probably my biggest project to date. And I was number 1 on the call sheet, so that's like a huge deal in its own, but it was only me and another guy being cast. And then there was like a team of just like 40 people, so which was already like nerve-wracking for me because this is like the biggest production I've ever been on. But it was at Thunder Studios in Long Beach in California, and this is like a very known studio. They had like, it was legit. They had the like 10-foot walls of just all greenery and one huge warehouse, and then the next one was all the XR stage, screens everywhere from the bottom to the all of the walls to the ceiling. And the project itself was I was playing AI. So we incorporate, yeah, exactly.
A little on the nose.
Exactly. So
you took a job from AI.
yeah, exactly. So I was the AI character. I had like a space form where it was like my avatar form, and then I had like my actual human form on Earth. So it was probably, yeah, it was definitely the biggest project I've done to date. I got to set. I remember we shot for 2 days, and I got there at like 6 a.m. And I went to my dressing room, and I called my dad, and I'm like crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if they hired me, or I'm like freaking out. I don't know. Am I the one that they wanted? Because seems like kind of way more than what I can do. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like a lot. I was just like freaking out. And but it all went very well, and I'm excited for that one to come out. Like,
dude, I'm pumped now too. Now I want to watch these things.
It should be like, that one should actually be out soon, hopefully. So, because we filmed that, I want to say like April, May, very beginning summer. So
I'm really glad that you took the time to come in here and talk to me. I don't know anything about this world, but it fascinates me, like everything else that I don't know about does. And one of the things I really like about doing the podcast is I can bring in people like you who are passionate about something that I'm ignorant towards. And when you're talking about your excitement and your giddiness and you're calling your dad because you're like, oh my God, am I in over my head? God bless. I know what that's like. And I was there with my own life and my own experiences. And I think you said it best when you said it makes you feel alive. So, Alyssa, thank you so much for coming on Easy Talk and telling me about your line of work. I hope this was enjoyable. I know this is a little different than what you normally do.
No, this was amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I enjoyed it.
Let's say goodbye, and I hope to see all the things that you're working on soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.